mentioned in 2021 and 2022 are the only reforms that you're bringing to this committee as we discuss the future of 702. I've got to see more. I hope there is more that you can present. Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just ask the panel to raise your hand if you agree with the following. The United States is in an undeclared state of war against ISIS and Al-Qaeda. You agree with that or not? Okay. All right. I think you raised your hands. That the Communist Chinese Party is hell-bent on infiltrating as many systems in America as possible. Okay. So let's talk about, I don't know if there's anybody named John Doe out there, but I don't know why you would name your kid John Doe. So let's talk about John Doe. If John Doe is suspected of working with the Chinese or some terrorist organization, do we all agree you'd have to get a warrant against John Doe if they were an American citizen? Everybody nods their head, right? If you think some American is colluding or working with some foreign power, that would be a crime, and you'd have to get a warrant to investigate them. Do we all agree with that? Okay. 702. This is about foreign persons outside the country. Is that correct? We're surveilling foreign people outside the United States, not to solve a crime, but to find out if they're up to no good in terms of intelligence gathering threats to the country. Is that correct? Here's the rub. You pick up a phone on the battlefield somewhere, and there's a bunch of names in that phone or numbers in that phone. I think you talked about this, Mr. Boddy, but let's just say you capture a terrorist somewhere overseas, and you have a mobile device, and on that device, there are names of Americans or numbers of Americans. What happens next?
We're going to quickly take those numbers, Senator. We're going to run them against the holdings. And,
without a warrant?
If we're talking about FISA 702?
Yes.
Yes, if it's obtained from foreign terrorist,
yeah,
absolutely.
So the idea of not looking at those numbers is absurd. Why wouldn't you want to look at those numbers? Doing it in a constitutionally sound manner is what we're talking about. So what would you do? You would ask the system what?
We would be looking connections around the world, and specifically in the United States. We would want to know if that terrorist is working with someone in the United States. So if he
called John Doe in Cleveland, Ohio, and you pinged the system and there is communications between the terrorist device and John Doe in Cleveland, Ohio, what would you do next?
We would do all of the investigative steps that you would expect. Physical surveillance.
Would you have to get a warrant?
If we were going to seek technical surveillance on the U.S. person, absolutely we would.
Okay. So if a terrorist is talking to someone inside the United States and we pick it up from 702, if you want to follow the American on the other end of the phone, you potentially would have to get a warrant. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. But just asking the question about whether or not there was a contact does not require a warrant. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So if an American is involved with a foreign person overseas, and there's evidence of an American being involved, we don't know what the nature of the involvement is, we like to know more. You can ask the system, but if you're really focusing on the American as being up to no good, you have to get a warrant. Is that fair to say?
That is correct, Senator. Once the focus turns to the U.S. person, the person inside the United States.
The only reason I mention this is that 702 is not designed to avoid a warrant requirement against people you have to get warrants for. Is that correct? The goal of 702 is to find out about what bad guys or bad girls may be up to overseas regarding us here at home, our interests throughout the world, and do something about it before it's too late. Is that the general nature of 702?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Now, you're going to have to prove to this committee that when you query about American systems and that system, citizens in that system, that you're not just being lazy, getting around the law, and these abuses need to stop. So count me in with Senator Durbin. I want to know more about have guardrails. But to the members of this committee, if we lose this tool, we'll pay a heavy price.
Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Olson,